How you doing, guys? Tomato Sauce in here, and today we're going to go into an in-depth Wrath of the Lich King Arms Warrior guide for Phase 1. We're raiding Nax Ramus now. We're going into Nax 10 and Nax 25. Guilds need Arms Warriors, and I get a lot of questions about how to play your Arms Warrior, how to gear your Arms Warrior, etc. from you guys every day in my Discord, and privately messaging me. Now, before we dive into the penultimate Arms Warrior guide for Wrath of the Lich King, I want to ask you guys, if you're here taking a look at this content, please like, subscribe, interact with the channel. We do cooking shorts here. We do, Wrath of the Lich King Warrior guides. We have some Dragonfall beta access guides as well, right? So I was way ahead of the curve with those. A lot of cool content here. If you enjoy Wrath of the Lich King, cooking, Dragonflight, I got it all for you. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Now let's jump right into it, boys. Arms Warrior, Phase 1, Wrath of the Lich King, Classic, the best version of the game of all time. I got all the information for you. What we're going to go into today is talents, glyphs, rotations, and gearing, right? Maybe not even in that order, because I don't really plan things out. First, we will go into talents, however. And as we open up this tree, you're going to see 3 out of 3 two-handed weapon specialization. If you're here for kebab content, I got to say I apologize to you, because in Phase 1, Wrath of the Lich King, we are absolutely wielding the biggest, baddest two-handers that we can get our hands on. It's, number one, good for your raid, right? Because there's not many one-handers that drop out of Nax 10 and 25. And number two, it looks super sick. We blast, and the slam rotation is much more intuitive than it was in TBC. You're not clipping auto attacks in this version of the game. You're going to hit your slam, and oh wow, my auto attack didn't clip. I didn't ruin my parse. I didn't do bad DPS. I'm out here pumping while playing slam. This is all we wanted in TBC. This is why we created Kebab, to stop slamming, but Blizzard fixed every issue with slam in Wrath of the Lich King. Let's dive into these talents. We're going to go 3 out of 3 improved heroic strike. That's pretty obvious, right? Less rage cost, more damage, so your damage per rage on heroic strike goes up. Improved rend, improve your bleed damage done by your rend ability by 20%. This is absolutely massive. We take this. Improved charge. When you go into the fight, you're going to get a little more rage. It's nice. Tactical mastery. We're going to keep some of that rage if we have to change stances to do things like pop recklessness, right? You don't have to pop recklessness as arms, right? Your damage isn't going to be dependent on it, but if you happen to be rage starved randomly in a fight, swap over, pop rec, pop back into battle stance. You're never going to dip below 25 rage, and you're looking good, right? Improved overpower. We're going to increase the critical strike chance of our overpower ability by 50%. But Tomato, this is a PvP talent, not in Wrath of the Lich King. It's not. You're going to take this. We use overpower. It's a core piece of our rotation now. Incredible. These are good talent points. 2 out of 2 impale. Increases the critical strike damage bonus of all your abilities by 20%. Oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot. It is, because we're also going to have 3% critical strike damage bonus from our helmet, and then we got another 5% critical strike damage bonus from our poleaxe specialization. Crazy. We got critical strike damage bonus coming out of our ears. We're going to take Impale into deep wounds. Your critical strikes cause the opponent to bleed, dealing 48% of your melee weapon damage. Oh my gosh. That's why that fiery thing was pretty good for a little while there. It's not anymore. Don't enchant your weapon with fiery weapon. Everybody that did that, you're a dork, especially if you overrode Berserker. Now, back to deep wounds. This ends up being over 20% of your damage once you're close to Phase 1 Bis in every single fight as an Arms Warrior. It's huge. You're going to crit a ton, and the bigger weapon you have, the more damage that deep wounds is going to tick for, and it's going to stack infinitely in Wrath of the Lich King. Takes us down to 3 out of 3 two-handed weapon specialization. Again, we want two-handed axes in Phase 1. This is 6% more damage, another modifier. which we love. We're putting 3 points there. Taste for Blood. Blizzard recently fixed a bug issue with Taste for Blood, where you would not get an overpower proc every 6 seconds in certain situations. You get them now. This is a DPS increase for Arms Warriors. We are absolutely pumping. 3 out of 3 Taste for Blood ties into your 50% critical strike chance from increase on overpower, which ties into your deep wounds stacking infinitely. Yeah, a lot of synergy in Arms Warrior. It's a lot of fun. 5 out of 5 Polax spec. We're going to increase our critical strike chance, which we know we want because we want to stack our deep wounds infinitely, but we're also going to increase our critical strike damage with axes and polearms by 5%. That's new in Wrath of the Lich King. More critical strike damage. We take this. 5 out of 5. Use axes and polearms. Anything else would be uncivilized. Sweeping strikes. A nice little value add to any cleave burst situation. We take this. Weapon mastery. I go 1 out of 2 here. This just reduces the chance for your attacks to be dodged by 1%. And then it's got a little PvP application, reducing the effect of disarm on you as well. This leads us into trauma. 2 out of 2. Your melee critical strikes increase the effectiveness of bleed effects on the target by 30% for 1 minute. Holy moly, that sounds like a lot. That's why your deep wounds and your rend come out to being almost 25%, sometimes higher, of your damage in any boss fight right now. Trauma's massive. We take that. Mortal Strike, 1 out of 1 into 3 out of 3. So we got MS, right? Our one of our main fillers. We're going to increase the damage of Mortal Strike by 10%. That also ties into one of our glyph choices. Strength of Arms, increase your total strength. Strength of Arms, right? Increase your total strength and stamina by 4% and your expertise by 4. Getting a little expertise out of here, plus infinitely scaling strength there. So as you get better gear, better plate gear, you're going to increase your strength exponentially with this talent. Improve slam. We're slammers now. It's a lot of fun. We're not clipping auto attacks. We're going to decrease the swing time of our slam ability by 1 second. Juggernaut. Your charge is now usable while in combat. We always take this 100% of the time. It greatly increases your mobility in many fights on Nax, 10 and 25 man. And a nice little application here is your next slam or mortal strike has an additional 25% chance to critically hit if used within the next 10 seconds. So every fight that you open, your first mortal strike it has a much higher chance to crit, which starts your deep wounds ticking and, you know, all that good synergy that Arms has around critical strike chance. We go into Unrelenting Assault, reduces the cooldown of our overpower, and it increases the damage done by it by 20%. That's huge. This also has a revenge application. We're not really worried about the revenge application as Arms, unless we randomly had to take out a sword and shield and start tanking because our tank went down. It also has a PvP application here, where if you strike a player with overpower while they're casting, they're going to do 50% less damage and healing for 6 seconds. That healing debuff stacks with Mortal Strike, so you can hit somebody with a 75% healing reduction on an Arms Warrior in Wrath of the Lich King. Crazy. Jump into Sudden Death. Your melee hits have a 9% chance of allowing the use of Execute regardless of the target's health state. This is huge. Now you also keep 10 rage after using Execute, and that ties into your Glyph of Execute that you're going to use when we get to our Glyph section, because that just increases the damage per rage, which is an important value that you look at to make decisions on your Arms Warrior rotation. We'll get into that when we jump into the rotation. You're going to take Endless Rage because the rage is endless. It's coming from the sky. This is just a great talent. 2 out of 2 Blood Frenzy increases your melee attack speed by 10%, which ties directly into Sudden Death. Get more Sudden Death procs, and you're also buffing the rage by 4%. Huge, right? You're buffing the entire raid, 4% for all your physical damage dealers. They love you because no rogue is playing combat in phase 1, you know, unless they have like that normal rogue IQ, right? Maybe a few of them are playing combat, but you'd much rather have an Arms Warrior and all of your rogues playing assassination in phase 1 because assassination bangs and there's not enough armor penetration in the game right now to really validate combat rogues, my opinion. Wrecking Crew. Your melee critical hits enrage you, increasing all damage caused by you by 10% for 12 seconds. It's up 100% of the time. You have so much crit in a raid environment as an arms warrior, you just have a 10% damage buff forever. Beautiful. And then this goes into our 51 point talent Blade Storm. It's some of the best AoE in the game. Burst AoE. You're going to be up there with the Warlocks if you do your AoE rotation correctly every minute and a half. I'm going to tell you how to do that when we get to our rotation. Fury, right? This leads us into the Fury tree. We're going to take 3 out of 3 armored for the teeth. This increases our attack power by 3 for every 108 armor that you have. And since you're not going to equip leather gear because you're not like, you don't want to disgrace yourself with a lesser gear form, right? We're arms warriors. We wear plate mail. We wear 4-piece Valorous because we're absolutely just murderous, rage-inducing warriors, right? We don't want to wear like finicky little leather. Oh, I can't taunt the boss. I'm in leather gear. He'll one-shot me. I can. We're going to get the most value out of armor to the teeth. Cruelty. 5% crit chance. You can never go wrong dumping 5 talents here. This takes us into our protection tree. We're going to go 2 out of 2 improved blood rage. That increases the rage generated by your blood rage ability. Nice little boost there every minute. Reduces the cost. And then we go 3 out of 3 improved thunderclap, which is going to reduce the rage cost of thunderclap and increase the damage by 30%. That, well, Tomato, why would you use thunderclap? You're not a protection warrior. I'm going to let you know, in your burst AoE rotation as arms warrior, 4+ targets, I use thunderclap. Boom. It's just under Blade Storm in priority, and I absolutely pump in AoE. I'm up there with the locks every AoE pack, every minute and a half. Blade Storm into an improved thunderclap, into sweeping strikes, cleave, just annihilating, right? Good things are happening. Then that takes us into Incite, which increases the critical strike chance of your heroic strike, thunderclap, and cleave abilities by 15%. You use all of these, right? In an AoE pack, thunderclap's actually going to be about 10-11% of your damage. And it's a very high damage per rage spent. And it's uncapped AoE. So buffing that sounds silly, but it's something that we do as Arms Warrior. Now let's go into our glyphs. We got our Glyph of Mortal Strike as our first major glyph. This is also the glyph that you can change out if you're doing dungeons, right? It'll lose a little value to Glyph of Cleave. Or if you're like me and you don't really care, rock Glyph of Mortal Strike 24/7. But if you really want to squeeze a little extra DPS out of your heroic dungeons, put Glyph of Cleave in Glyph of Mortal Strike's place. Because we're never getting rid of Glyph of Rending. Increases the duration of your rend ability by 6 seconds. It's just too good. And then Glyph of Execution. I would never get rid of this either, especially with sudden death in the arms tree. Your execute ability deals damage as if you had 10 additional rage, greatly increasing the DPR on your execute procs. It's sick. You love it. You take this 100% of the time. Now, minor glyphs, what I'm using, I use Glyph of Thunderclap because I want to hit every mob in that uncapped AoE pack. Glyph of Battle. You could also use Glyph of Command depending on what shout you're throwing up. I use Battle because that's kind of selfish, but I don't mind casting Commanding more in raid when Command is my job. But when I'm in 5-mans, I'm always running Glyph of Battle. Pretty rare I get 2 Paladins, so I have 1 Paladin throw up Kings, and I'll throw a Battle Shout for the group. And then Glyph of Blood Rage reduces the health cost of my Blood Rage ability by 100%. You could also run Glyph of Charge here, but, you know, I try to respect my healers. So those are our talents and our glyphs for Arms Warrior Phase 1 Wrath of the Lich King. Let's get into our rotation, right? So when we engage the boss, we're going to charge in there. We're going to sunder first GCD. If you have a prot warrior in the group, especially, you only have to sunder first GCD. If you are the only warrior in the group, what I do is I sunder, then I rage, and then I sack sunders while prioritizing any procs that I get. So I'm stacking my Sunders to 5 and prioritizing these procs. Now, you're at 5 stacks of Sunder. You have Rend rolling, right? Your overpowers coming out. You're going to use those overpowers on cooldown. But here's your priority, right? So if you have an overpower and a sudden death proc, you're actually going to press your sudden death proc before the overpower. Why is that? Because you have a 6-second taste for blood window. So you can actually hold on to your overpower proc for 6 seconds. Whereas if you use your sudden death proc quicker, you could get a back-to-back sudden death proc. So what's our priority single target? We're keeping our Sunders on the target. We are getting our Rend up as soon as possible. We're prioritizing our execute procs, our sudden death procs, and our overpower procs. And then from there, we are batching Heroic Strike with an instant ability wherever applicable when you're above 60 rage. That's the number I use. So anytime I'm above 60 rage, I have Rend going. I'm going to batch Heroic Strike with Mortal Strike, Heroic Strike with Overpower. And then when I don't have any of those buttons to press, right, I go right into slamming, and you just start slamming. So I keep slam on the bottom of my rotation priority. But the most important thing that you want to do as an arms warrior when you are, going through your rotation is to ensure that you have no gaps in your GCDs. So even if you have everything on cooldown, no procs rolling, all you're going to do is boom, slam into another slam, right? And then you have rage, and you're going to, start batching that with everything else. So let's take a look at what it looks like. These target dummies are going to be a little lower than your normal bosses, because I don't think deep wound stacks on them. They're a little bugged right now. But like, you're going to charge in, Rend, right? Start sundering, overpower proc, execute proc, sunder, overpower proc, sundering again. We're at 5. We got our execute proc, we got our overpower proc, boom. Now when I'm low on rage, I'll even blade storm, and then I'll pop Rend back on, and we're boom, overpowering, executing, overpowering, Heroic Strike, Mortal Strike, into a slam because we have no procs. As soon as we have another one, boom, into another slam, into an overpower. You can kind of see how it goes, right? Maintaining the Sunder if you're the Sunder bot. That's why it's also really nice to have a Prot Warrior in raid, because after your first GCD Sunder, you don't have to really maintain that, because that's just a part of their rotation. Now let's get into our AoE rotation, right? The AoE rotation is a lot of fun in Arms Warrior. So you have a priority as follows. You're going to go into the pack. You're going to Blade Storm. From there, as soon as the Blade Storm is over, I Rend one target, and then I Thunderclap. Then from there, I Blood Rage, Sweeping Strikes, and start queuing my Cleave, and Thunderclapping, and going with your normal single target rotation. You are going to pump every time Thunderclap is up in 4+ targets, 5+, 4 to 5+ targets. Make sure you use that. You can batch your Serenite bombs in there. And I actually didn't even go over that in single target. I'm always batching my Serenite bombs because they're really cheap to make, and they give you a little extra DPS over the course of a fight, since they're only on a 1-minute cooldown. So really, what's our AoE rotation look like, right? We're going to charge in, Blood Rage, Blade Storm. We got everything going. As soon as I come out of this, I'm going to Rend one target, Thunderclap, Sweeping Strikes, go into single target, start batching Cleaves, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you're just absolutely pumping. It's a ton of damage every time Thunderclap's up. You're going to use that on cooldown as well, as long as you're at like 4+ targets. Yeah, a lot of damage with Thunderclap. You can see the breakdown, right? So like, I didn't crit enough on this Thunderclap, and I probably didn't do it long enough, right? But it was 7% of my damage there. Generally, it's about 10 to 11% in a raid environment. So you are going to use Thunderclap in AoE. It's super nice, keeps your tanks alive. Just overall a very nice button to press. So that's our rotation. We've gone over our talents. Let's jump into our gearing, right? So I'm a huge opponent of leather gearing on a warrior. I'm going to go through my gear with you guys. And then from there, I'll also walk you through some other items you can use in that slot if I don't think I have the best piece there. So we'll start out with our helmet. I'm going with the Spiked Titan Steel helmet with the Ebon Blade helm enchant. So that's 50 attack power, 20 critical strike rating. The meta gem I'm using is the Relentless Earth Siege Diamond. It's a very easy requirement to get it going. You just need 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 yellow. We get 21 agility here, so that's some critical strike chance, as well as 3% critical strike damage. The reason I use 21 agility instead of the 21 crit gem is because this is an easier gem to activate. And on top of that, it scales with kings, right? So the more agility you get, the more stats you're going to get with kings. The blue socket that I'm using in the Spiked Titan Steel helm is +6 to all stats, and I'm doing that so that I activate the 8 critical strike rating. Now, where I would go from a Spiked Titan Steel helm, you could either go with the Valorous helmet, or you can go with the Obsidian helmet from Sarth 25 man. I actually had the chance to get Obsidian last night, but unfortunately I lost the roll. Soon, though, we will have that. Then I run with the Pendant of the Dragonsworn. To me, there's really only 2 to 3 necklace choices, right? The 25 Mali necklace, which is just the upgraded version of this one, or you could get a like a badge neck that's not bad, right? That'll kind of fill the void for you. But what's really nice about these 2 necklaces, you get critical strike, attack power, and armor penetration. You know, they're just really nice. And I had socketed this with a 16 strength gem, which is going to give me 32 attack power, because at the time these gems were simming the highest for me. Maybe I change it to an armor penetration gem at this point, but you know, we're talking about couch change, right? As far as DPS goes. Then that takes me into my shoulders. Your Valorous Dreadnought shoulders are going to be the best choice for you as a plate arms warrior. You're going to enchant them with the Exalted or Honored Sons of Hodir Reputation shoulder enchant. So that's 40 attack power and 15 crit if you're Exalted, 30 attack power and 10 crit if you are not Exalted. I have an Inscribed Noble or Inscribed Monarch Topaz in here, which is going to give us 8 strength, translates into 16 attack power, scales with kings, and 8 critical strike rating. And then we also get an extra 4 crit from the socket bonus. You can see, right? Critical strike, armor pen, that's going to be the theme here. And by running 4-piece, I'm actually increasing the damage of my slam by 10%. And my bleed periodic effects have a chance to make my next ability cost 5 less rage, which increases the damage per rage on all of my abilities as we, as we are in a raid environment. 4-piece Valorous also actually sims a little bit higher than leather gear in cleave environments, because you're just increasing that damage per rage of all your cleaving abilities. So 4-piece Valor is super nice. If you can get it, aim for it. Goes into the cloak slot. Cloak of Bloodied Waters is a great cloak to use if you can't get, you know, one of the 2 cloaks off of Nax 25 man. I got this week. Again, right? Common theme. Improves critical strike by 43, attack power by 110, armor pen by 28. Then I have engineering, so I hit it with the Flex Weave underlay enchant, which gives me 23% increased agility, which again scales with kings. So that's why you're always going after these big agility stats, because that stat is going to scale with kings, and it's going to give you more critical strike chance. Goes into our chest. We're going to go after the Valorous Dreadnought Battle Plate. You can see I cheaped out on the enchant. I went +8 instead of +10. You're talking about 700 gold on my server for 2 stats. I'll stick with the 8. You can see I started gemming armor penetration here. This was twofold. Armor pen started simming as my highest valued stat in my most recent sim. And I wanted to activate the 6 hit in order to get myself just over the hit cap so I could get as much armor penetration into my gear as possible. And I'll show you what we have there in a moment. take this into our bracers. We're going wristbands of the Sentinel Huntress. It's plate. We're not going after Sinners because those are leather. You know, 56 strength, 50 attack power enchant. We got 56 crit and 32 expertise here. We're in a really good spot with the wristbands of the Sentinel Huntress. Again, this takes us into our gloves. The bisque gloves for Fury and arms right now are these leather gloves, but the difference is very small. So I actually run with the Valoris Dreadplate gauntlets to keep the 4-set rolling, to give me more expertise, and to keep me just over 8% hit cap. I throw an Inscribed Monarch, Inscribed Monarch Topaz in here, and that's, you know, 8 strength, 8 critical strike to get the 4 extra expertise rating as well. Now you can see I have an enchant on here from engineering. Engineering is our best profession by far. You definitely want engineering. This haste enchant is up every minute, and it's 340 haste for 12 seconds, which means we're just going to be dumping sudden death execute procs while this is active every single time. So yeah, you have this, you drop a haste pot, you're just going to see your attack speed go really, really low. It's pretty awesome. I'm running Verdungo's Barbarian Cord in our belt slot. The upgrade to this, in my opinion, is the belt off of Raz. So that belt off of Raz, I can pull it up on Atlas Loot really quick. Go into our dungeons and raids. Nax 25. Resuvius. The Girdle of Resuvius. This is going to increase our critical strike by 74 and increase our expertise by 38. If I swap this belt out with Verdungo's, you know, I would be over 6% expertise at that point, which is pretty massive for this part of the phase. I mean, I have a ton of expertise and a pretty solid armor penetration rating because of the gear choices that I've made at this point. This will take us into our legs. Again, we're going Valoris. Yeah, we have a blue and a red here. You could go armor pen blue if you really want that 6 strength. I'll have to sim that and see if it's worth it. It may be. But right now I have 2 Inscribed Monarchs in here because this was one of the first pieces I got, and at the time Inscribed Monarchs were simming the highest. But it's a huge value piece for arms and Fury. I'm only going into arms here, obviously, because that's what I play and that's what I really enjoy. But, you know, that can change as we get into later phases and Fury really starts scaling with armor penetration. But you can see, right, critical strike and expertise, it's absolutely huge. This takes us into boots. Right now I'm running the Death Insured Sabatons, which is just a rep item. You can see I have the Goblin Nitro boosts from engineering. This is the best enchant for your boots. If you don't have engineering leveled and you're playing warrior in this version of the game, level it. It's 100% worth it. I run engineering and mining, and I think it's a great combination. Obviously, jewel crafting would be BIS, but I like to be self-sustaining. I don't like to call up our Chinese friends. You know, trading real-life funds for handouts, right? I like to just do it on my own at that point. So you can see I didn't activate the hit here because I did not need it. So I just added strength and an Inscribed Monarch Topaz. Now I'm using Titanium Impact Band here. There are some better rings than this, but I really like the armor penetration that it provides. I don't think it's worth me getting the badge ring over this when I could use the badges on a tank ring, because I do flex into the tank role for my guild when needed on like Patchwork 25 and 4 Horsemen. So, you know, I do want to also build a tank set while staying economical, you know, in Wrath right now. So I run Titanium Impact Band here with an Inscribed Monarch. Then I have the Surge Needle Ring. I got really lucky. I got my guild's first Surge Needle Ring. It was open roll, and I rolled like a 99 on it. This is a phase BIS ring for hit. Just a really high value slot to have this ring. It's awesome. And you can see, right, where I'm at right now with hit and armor penetration, I'm just over the 8% soft hit cap. And my armor penetration is sitting at 13% base. And then when you look at my trinkets, I'm also using Incisor Fragment. So let's say I hit my Blood Rage. My armor penetration is now up to 33.80% baseline pre-sunders for 20 seconds, which is absolutely massive. You see some huge executes going out, talking almost 8K executes at my gear level when this trinket is popped. It sims the highest for me. I have Meteorite Whetstone. I have Sphere of Dragon Blood, but because I'm already at hit cap, this thing absolutely dominates them, and it keeps me over 30% armor penetration, which will only get higher because I will eventually get the Melancholy Sabatons off of 25-man Eye, which, boom, that's 84 additional armor penetration, 54 crit. That's my best upgrade there. And then for my second trinket, I use Mirror of Truth, which is increasing my critical strike by 84. And then I have a chance on my melee critical strikes, which I am always critting, to increase my attack power by 1,000 for 10 seconds. So I have a very high chance to proc this trinket, and it backs out very well for an arms warrior with, you know, I'm almost at 39% crit base with no outside buffs. In a raid environment, I'm at about 46% critical strike, I believe, on character sheet. So you can tell just a ton of crits happening at that point, especially with 50% overpower, 25% additional crit on my first mortal strike, etc. Right? The list goes on. And then weapons, right? You could have you know, I have Death's Bite, which is the best pre-betrayer weapon that you can get in the game. We can look at Healthazard here, so Nax KT. The only upgrade for me right now would be Betrayer of Humanity, and that's just a straight DPS upgrade over Death's Bite. They come in at the same attack speed. You know, I don't like that you'd be losing the hit on Death's Bite, so you would have to start kind of changing up some of your gemming from the strategy that I've kind of gone towards based on the gear that I've been able to get. But that's okay, because, you know, you figure it out as you get there. It would be a good problem to have, having to find more hit by equipping Betrayers over Death's Bite. And then I'm using the Drake mounted crossbow, which is just, you know, our best pre-envoy crossbow. You know, hunters are going to have priority on envoy over you. Maybe even rogues if you're in a, you know, a high-end raiding guild. I'm in a newly formed 25-man raiding guild where, you know, I'm one of the higher DPS as an arms warrior. So, you know, it'll differ from raid to raid, is essentially what I'm saying there. But that's the gearing strategy that I took. You can see I don't have one piece of leather here. If you were going to go against the plate only rule of, you know, arms warrior, conquest, and devastation, what you would do there, your only slot that I would allow it is here, and you could get the rep items off of Wormrest Accord Exalted, Dragon Fiend Bracers. I used these for a little while, but I will say that because of this icon, I thought they were plate. So it actually took somebody pointing out to me on Reddit when I said, you know, cold steel only touches this body, right? I'm a warrior. They were like, yeah, buddy, your bracers are leather. And I was like, no! But we ended up having enough badges for Sentinel, so we moved into Sentinel Huntress bracers. Guys, if you've made it this far, I appreciate it. I hope that I gave you all of the arms warrior information that you need. What I will leave you with is just, you know, some personal affirmations, right? At this stage of the game. You can see here, I'll move my camera a little bit. You know, 25-man Nax. I only have 2 lockouts here. I'm doing pretty good at this point, following that little priority and gearing choices that I showed you guys. You can see my Thaddeus, I have like a top 200 in 25-man. And then just to go into our raid, right? This isn't the best raid in the world. This was the first raid that we put together in the new guild. Stomp on Sulfuras. If you know, shout out Stomp on Sulfuras. We've put this raid together Friday nights and Saturday nights, late night. But you can see, right? Even where we don't have the best raid, you know, if you follow the rotation, if you follow the gearing, you know, you can pump, right? And we don't have to just look at the fight that was my best fight. If we go through and, you know, look at like a Hagen where there's a ton of movement, right? You know, even as a slam arms warrior, you're able to come in and with half the raid Parson Gray, right? You can still pump. You know, parses, I hear a lot of people say, oh, they're limited by kill times. And, you know, if you're not in the best raid, you'll never parse well. Well, I mean, I'm showing you right now, right? You absolutely can if you go after, you know, your class knowledge, try to get better at the game, bring the right consumables, you know, etc. Right? You know, and as you can see, right? Just look at my breakdown. Ton of melee damage, ton of execute damage, ton of deep wounds damage. You know, your overpower is right behind that, and then Mortal Strike is right behind that. If we go over to Thaddeus, you know, just to use my best fight from the other night, you can see deep wounds coming in at our top damage, execute, melee, overpower, Mortal Strike. So those fights where you get, you know, the best critical strike RNG, your deep wounds is going to scale the highest. Now, last night, I would have loved to show the Sarth that we had last night, but I forgot to turn my combat log back on. But I had over 5,100 DPS in a Sarth 25 man. You know, it was only a 2 Drake, but it would have showed a little bit more of like how you can work Thunderclap in, and, you know, parse very high as an arms warrior. You know, Patchwork, I actually tanked, so this isn't the best example. Gluth, right? Gluth's another pretty good fight where we had a very scuffed Gluth, but because I stuck to my rotation, my priority, and my gearing strategy, you know, I had a respectable showing again in Gluth. You know, and then if we go to, we just go back here. If we go to our 10-man, this is one where, you know, it's the boys, right? Just me and my friends playing together. You know, you could see I'm shredding 10-man as arms warrior at the moment. So all over the place. We have good kill times here. You know, you could take a look at my best 10-man is this Gluth, and I've been pretty good in Gluth in general. But like, you know, even when the raid is pumping, it's obviously a little easier for you to pump, and all of the burden isn't on your shoulders, right? But if everybody goes in, learns their classes, you know, you can pump on arms. It is not the you know, the horrible situation that people are saying it is. As an arms warrior, you buff the raid, you do very good damage, and you can do, you know, you can beat classes that you shouldn't beat because you're going to do the homework on your class. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, once again, like and subscribe for more content. You know, I love Arms Warrior. I love coming back to you guys with content and learning, you know, in my learnings as an Arms Warrior. I'm never going to put a video out that comes off as uneducated, unless it has to do with clam weaving. But, you know, enjoy it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Tomato Saucin' out.